You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, your check is I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression.
G'day and welcome back to Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under, everyone. How are you everywhere across the globe, wherever you might be across Australia? And thank you again for joining me. I'm Chris, if you don't know who I am, just introducing myself. Look, I just want to quickly touch base on something. It's just come to beknownst to me just recently when I went to go and upload this video that YouTube seems to have removed my content. I had a video up there of my personal experiences, my part 2 of following up to my interview with Robert Earl White on his channel, and it was in depth to a degree. It was quite personal, it was revealing. I'm concerned. The reasoning why, there was no reason why I even protested this and had a look at their response. They didn't even provide a response. But I feel a little bit violated right now. But anyway, got to move forward. That's what we do. Pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off as we do. But yeah, it's a bit concerning because, I mean, I don't see why there was really, well, not concerning, it's just, to me, it seems, why would they take down a video like that as such? And then also label it removed by editor. I have the height of name and labeling it like that. How dare they? Making me look like the bad guy. Jesus. Anyway, so I just thought I'd touch base on that, and if any of you are wondering why that video has been removed or is no longer available, that's because, that's the reasoning why. YouTube. Censorship and banning. Excuse me. But what I wanted to touch base on today, I'm going to move forward from that now, okay? Because there's no need to hold on to that anymore. But I thought, what better way to, move forward than to just rise above. So, yeah. That's where I'm feeling. That's where I feel right now, is that I need to, just rise above that. So, yeah, let's let that go and let's move forward now. But anyway, I've prepared today. No video slides or anything like that. I've got a couple of pictures I'm going to throw up that I actually have drawn, hand drawn, that I've got prepped and ready, ready to show for one of my experiences that I had up in Cairns. But look, the drawings and all the pictures and everything are just taking too long for me to do, so I'm going to do them in my spare time. I'm just going to get to it because time's a wasting, and time waits for no man. Okay, so I'm getting on with it, and I'm going to be basically getting into all my other experiences that have happened since what I touched base on in my video that I had unfortunately removed at YouTube's request or whatever. They've removed it. Okay, so here we go. Getting down, getting dirty, getting deep, and getting raw again. And there's a few things, okay, because I'll be touching on some other sensitive issues, okay, because we all have a journey, we all have a path, and it's all about how we pull ourselves through this and learn the lessons that are in the journey that's put before us. Doesn't matter the highs or the lows. There's always something that can be learnt along the way, okay? So I'm going to be continuing today with another couple of experiences that I had, first of all, up in Cairns, and then I'm going to move on to another subject that is co-connected to these experiences to a degree. Okay, so here we go. Today I'm going to be touching on my out-of-body, and one of my out-of-body experiences that I had up in Cairns. Okay, and I think it's pretty much one of the first real out-of-body experiences that I had. I'm pretty sure. Real full recollection of everything, but also at the same time, after many years of looking back at things now as an adult and using discernment and maturity as we grow, thinking logically, using reason, rationale as a basis, for as everything that we look at, trying to use it and try and take away the elements that are really inconclusive and not holding weight or water, so to speak, to only be left with one conclusion. But yeah, this particular out-of-body experience happened up in Cairns, okay, 1992, when I was about 19 years of age, okay, and I was living with my mate, or a couple of mates, and one of my mate's girlfriends at the time, and I was living in Cairns in a place called Vivas Close, which is in a small suburb called Westcourt, that is, okay. And this one particular night, it was myself and just my mate Leonard left at home, and it was a couple of days before payday. And you know how when you're young, you're 19 and you haven't got a job because of the economy, so to speak. It was going on in the 90s. It wasn't too good up in North Queensland. You couldn't find a job, so unfortunately, a couple of days before payday, you kind of just want to most people will go off their head and usually start looking around for money. Myself and my mate Leonard, we were the type that would just sit back and just kind of relax, because when you payday was just a couple of days away, and there's no point stressing over shit that you ain't got control of. But anyway, in saying that, myself and him were sitting back one night. He's in one armchair and I'm in the lounge, and we're sitting there listening to some music, just in the semi-dark. It wasn't completely dark. We had the kitchen light on behind us, but looking at where we were positioned in the lounge room, looking at the stereo and where the TV was and everything like that, which wasn't on. The TV wasn't on because it would have just illuminated the room more. Where we were, you couldn't really see too much of the kitchen light shining too much into where we were in the lounge room was situated. And anyway, we're sitting there, we're listening to some old surf punk music, man. Many of you will probably know this group, it's, Butthole Surfers. And we're listening to an old song by them called Flying, I'm Flying Away. And if you know that song, you know how that beginning goes. Whoa, okay. And pretty radical song too for its time too. Okay. Sorry, I'm showing my age a little bit there. But anyway, we're sitting there in the semi-dark and we're listening to this music, and I'm just relaxed as much as it's surf and it's heavy, hard rock, etc. This was our way of relaxing back in the 90s and just kicking it. We were smokers back then. We did smoke weed, etc. We did go out and drink. We went to the nightclubs on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. We were regulars. Okay, there wasn't one of those nights where we weren't missing from a particular nightclub on the strip up in Cairns. Those 3 nights, and it was good. But at home, we were just relaxed, and we're listening to this music, and I'm particularly watching the LEDs, and I'm just watching this LEDs on this stereo go up and down from the music, and it just had me entranced. And next thing you know, and I'm not kidding, this is no word of a lie, I've jumped over the coffee table as such. Sorry for my hand in front of the camera like that. I've jumped over the coffee table as such, completely over, as an astral body. And I've looked back at myself sitting on the couch behind me. And I was like, and as I did look forward, I could see up into this, what looked like a beautiful big tunnel of light. And as I did, I was thrust back into my body, like my hands and my legs were above me, like I was falling from the sky. So I've had to go and actually draw these images from my mind onto paper so that I no longer have to see them up here. I can now see them onto paper. So just in saying that, I'm just going to give you some quick rundown briefly of what I've drawn of this particular experience, just to show you, okay? Now, this is particularly the lounge room, okay? I'm not sure if you can see that as such. Yeah, I'll pull that back a little bit. There you go. Here's the LEDs up here, stereo down here, okay? Now, we had a V8 transmission for the coffee table in our lounge room. And yeah, that's the particular couch that I was sitting back on. Leonard was on the other side here, closer to us. And I've jumped up and leaped over this thing as an astral form, like literally from here across to here. And I've looked back at myself, and by doing so, when I've looked forward, after I've looked forward, back at myself, I've seen that beautiful tunnel of light, and this is what I saw when I was falling. As you can see, like, I'm not bad at drawing, because I can get the human form pretty right if I'm just drawing it directly from my hands or my feet in front of me. But that's basically what I saw, like the tunnel itself, like that's what was in front of me. And what happened was I was thrust so quickly and so hard, bang, back into my body, much like the incident when I got hit by my car, the very same sort of feeling that I had when I came back and sitting bolt upright, and I was kind of lucid. I was like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm all right. But what I did was, when I came back this time, I hit with such force and such ferocity that I freaked out. And from also the fall as well, falling, knowing that I was actually in a tunnel of light, not compared to what happened with me with the near-death experience, that was instantaneous. Boom, straight into this realm of light. Bang, gone, straight out of my body. Okay, whereas this was different. This was a totally different feeling. It was a feeling that was similar but different. I had the feeling of falling. I was in a tunnel of light, but my skin felt like static electricity all over. My hair was standing all on end. My crown of hair was all standing, every hair on my arm, my legs. But at the same time, a burning sensation that wasn't burning. This was 1992, 91, when 1992, 1990s when this all happened. So I had no idea back then of what any of these programs or USAPs, unacknowledged special access programs, or anything were back then. I had an interest in ufology and archaeology, but I wasn't really into it at all. I was more of the nightclub scene and getting into music and learning to mix. Okay, so that was me back then. I'd kind of lost a lot of my interests along the way. So therefore I had no interest in any of this stuff that I'm interested in today. It's taken me last, fair few years to get this all into perspective, looking back on it all. And basically, hitting my body with such force and ferocity the way I did, and having the sensations that I had, my eyes being dilated to the point where, like, I couldn't cohere anything or speak as such. My best friend was asking me, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Because he saw me. He was like, he saw me convulse back up out of my chair, and he saw me running around for the next 10 minutes, going screaming. I was screaming my head. Excuse me, screaming my head off, and all I could manage to get out was can't speak. Like, I was freaking, I was shaking. And he said, "Mate, get into a shower." Because he could feel the static coming off me. And I had to get into a warm shower because I was fearful that a cold shower might, or even water itself, I was even fearful of going in, but I gave it a go. Because I needed to cool, I had to cool the sensation down that I had feeling of this burning but not burning. Okay, even though there was a static feeling to it all. And I got in, and it took me roughly a good half hour, to come to a point where I was able to coherently speak and actually acknowledge that I was in the same room as Leonard, and actually respond to anything that he might have asked me. And I do not have any memory still to this day except for the falling sensation and seeing myself come out of my body over the coffee table and seeing myself fall back through this tunnel. Now, as I said, I didn't know what any of that was back then. Now, after many, many years, all I can put that down to, after looking at much research, a lot of testimony, and a lot of different individuals that have been in different things or involved in different programs or USAPs, etc. I can put it down to either a couple of things, not one thing, a couple of things, possibly three. I was possibly MyLabbed by possibly military abduction groups that are working with off-world, and we're talking about possibly the Sakaar, Nebu, and the Reptilian Draco factions. Okay, I was possibly lucid dreaming. It's a possibility. We have to look at these things. And then I fell into a deep state of meditation for a second that I saw this. Or quite possibly might have been just a quick out-of-body experience that I had manifested myself. Maybe, I don't know. All I know is leave your comments in the below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But after looking back at these things, I think, like, I'm not saying I am, and I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm thinking there is a possibility that is one particular moment. If they are, if these particular groups that do exist and programs are taking people, they would also be watching and monitoring you in every way, shape and form they possibly could, even in the 1990s. Okay? And that leads me to believe that a lot of the things that we were seeing in the 1990s, especially on the X-Files, leads me to believe that that statement is true. Because if that statement, being true, that leads me to say that they would have targeted individuals. Excuse me. And they would have waited for a perfect opportunity that presented itself in order to take individuals at certain moments, take them for a 20 and back, put them to a God knows what egregious and heinous things for 20 years, and then wipe their mind, age regress them, and drop them back at exactly the same point that they were picked up from. Now, I'm not saying that that's happened, okay, so please don't get me wrong, but yeah, this is a possibility, because as I've listened to many, as I said, testimonies and individuals that have been involved in these programs, they've described, after many years watching them, what I experienced and the symptoms that I felt back then. Furthermore, has validated for me the possibility of being involved in these programs, because they had very similar sensations, symptoms and feelings. Okay? Not all of them. Everyone's journey and path is different, but the fact is that we're out there for 20 and back, mind wiped and age regressed and put back at the same moment. That falling sensation with my arms and legs in the air like that back through that tunnel can only be described as possibly being returned at that moment. And I've been left with a fragment, a snippet, a photograph of what that looked like in my mind. And now I've got it on paper. I have it up here and stored, but having it on paper, I no longer have to look for it in my mind, or not look at it in my mind anymore. That's what I meant to say. Look at it in my mind. I can see it on paper. It's physical. It's tangible. It's something that I can relate to now and show others that this is how I felt. This is what I saw. This is, the sort of experience that I had by example. But I'd like to know personally if I was ever involved, taken in an experience or slave trade labor SSP program such as Dark Fleet or anything like that along the way. But yeah, that was one experience that happened. I came back and was unable to coherently speak or understand it. Leonard had to get into a shower. After half an hour I was able to coherently start speaking again, but I had no memory of my, going out there or anything like that. All I had was the snippet of my falling and me going over the table, all there perfectly preserved, just like my NDE when I went to the realm of light. It's unmistakable. I mean, like I've drawn it exactly as I've seen it up here and how I've experienced it. So for me, that leads, to me, having the question I need to know now is that, was I involved at any stage in my life in any off-world SSP programs? And I'm hopefully, going to get to the bottom of that in time. Don't know how. Maybe, my friend who's a quantum sound healer and also meditative guide might be able to do past life regression with me as well. Let's see how that goes. I don't know, but that would be very interesting avenue to cross and segue into to see if there's any validation there to any of my statements, or if there's any validation to my past lives that I'm concerned that I'd like to know about, that I've had here either on this planet or in other previous star systems, as most souls do. Okay, but yeah, that was one particular experience that I had up there, and it was really good because, like, now looking back on it, it was good. At the time it was not a good experience. Like, trust me, this for me was traumatic to say the least. It left me with trust issues with people afterwards. I also found that not long after, I tried my first actual time of actually doing chemical drugs as such. I was more so a marijuana person when I was younger, okay, but I did my first taste of drugs, and this is what led me into, unfortunately, the addiction side of things, which I'm going to be getting into in a minute, okay. But I have another experience that happened in between my first time that I ever tried a substance as such, and then had another experience, and then had another substance, etc. So same substance again, but tried again, which led me into full-blown addiction. First time, what I call the first honeymoon. Okay, but that second experience was that I was living in Earlville in North Queensland, in Cairns. Okay, it's a small township, or suburb I should say, in Cairns as well. Same township as my first experience that I just mentioned just before. Okay, it's a little bit further south of the township. It's actually heading out on the Southern Freeway, going out of Cairns, going back towards Townsville. Okay, for those of you that are overseas that don't know. And I've got to tell you, these places are beautiful to visit. I can't recommend them any better. Okay, North Queensland, get it to you. Cairns, North Queensland, Townsville, North Queensland, Magnetic Island. Got to try it. Whit Sundays. Anyone across the world, come and see it. Come visit Tourist Central. Beautiful place. There you go, a bit of Aussie for you, a bit of Aussie tourism, advertising for free. Anyway, getting back to the experience. I was living in Earlville, in this particular little unit that I had taken on with myself and my mate Leonard. We'd moved out of this other place that we were in, with another gent that we were living with, Neville and his sister, and my other two, my other mate, Todd. Leonard and I had moved out and taken over the lease of, Todd's brother, Brett, okay, who was moving out of his unit at Earlville, and we wanted a bit of independence, and being 19, we went for it. We went and got ourselves a bond together, and we went and paid our first month up front, moved in, place was partially furnished, so we only had to provide ourselves a bed, and a couple other things, TV, all the essentials, so to speak. Won't go into that. But anyway, one particular night, I'm sitting there and I'm on the phone. Leonard's out, and he's doing his own thing with his girl that night, and I'm on the phone to my mate Ben, who's on the other side of the city in Lake Street, which is right near the nightclub strip, but a little bit further back. Okay, he's at a friend's place called Michelle, and this particular girl, Michelle, I had a bit of a heart space for, I was kind of keen to try and start something with her. But anyway, we're having a great old conversation. He's relaying to me from her how she was feeling about me, and I was there with her and holding the phone to my ear, which is connected bioelectrically, mind you. Looking at all this from a mature point, looking back on it, the bioelectric field around my body, electromagnetic field, connected to the magnets that are, you know, using vibration and frequency in the phone to carry and relay vibration and frequency from here, all interacting together through the wires connecting us from one end of town to the other, her holding Ben's hand, him holding the phone to his ear, okay, and she can hear loud and clear what I'm saying. It created a connection as such. And I don't know how it happened, because this was my first time that I'd ever done this, and I'd actually didn't realize until after I'd come back what I did was really, really strange. And it was very similar feeling to what I had when I got hit, you know, by the car, and my out-of-body experience, leaping across the table, or whatever that may have been, you know. Got to think about it. Very similar experiences, as such. Okay, this field, this connectivity was unbelievably powerful, but at the same time, it felt slightly unnatural due to the fact that it was produced through a phone, through copper wires, electrical equipment, magnets, and things like, well, not so much magnets, because magnets can be used in a positive manner, but because it's a dark system that it's set up upon. That's what felt unnatural about it, the unnatural non-organic technology that has been utilized by this so-called civilization. Okay, and it created a connection between our electromagnetic fields interacting with the phones, the copper wires, the magnets, etc., where I dropped out again into a meditative state whilst the phone was still to my ear and I was slumped on the table like this. And I was instantly transported straight to the other side of the city. And I was sitting there looking at Michelle like I'm looking at myself in, you know, the camera right now, or looking at any of you. And I'm sitting there looking at her, looking straight at her. And I looked down and I saw her pull her hand away and instantly sucked back into my body. And I looked at Ben and I said, why did she do that? He goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, mate, she just pulled her hand away. And he goes, how do you know that? And she just said, oh my God, it did happen. It did happen. I did see it. And Ben was like, what did you see? What did you see? She goes, I just saw Chris's face hovering over the front of you, like just sitting there, moving up and down slightly side to side, like, but I could still see your face through, like it was moving, you know, over the top like that. And it was translucent to a degree that she could still see Ben's features through me, but my features were there more prominent in front. And that's what forced her to break the connection. And he just like freaked out. He was just like, oh my God, you actually saw, like, you've just confirmed what Chris said. And she goes, I heard him say that he saw me break away. Obviously what happened is real. I just saw Chris floating over the top of your face, and sorry, Ben, but I'm out of here. And I never saw Michelle again. Nor did I actually ever see, or actually no, I saw Ben one more time after that. But that was a connection that kind of not only, well, it freaked Michelle out, unfortunately, and I've never spoken to her again, unfortunately. She's never spoken to me more so. I would love to know where Michelle is today and just say sorry, because that's something that was out of my control. It was a first timer for me too. A bit of a shock horror. But many apologies. You know, I'm just, yeah, I was dumbfounded by the whole experience. Did not know what to make of it at the time. Until, now, looking back on this and having the timeline of sequenced events put in place and knowing what I know from the research that I know, I can now look back on that and look at that and say that is only one thing and one thing only. Astral projection. Not out of body. That is an out of body experience, a form of out of body experience, but that was out of body experience as an astral projection. Okay. And I appeared as a silhouetted face that you could still see Ben's features over the top of his face on the other side of town. Now, at some stage in the future, I will provide a video just showing you the relevance of distance between, this place. I'll get a couple of photographs off Google Earth and I'll provide them in a video just to show you that this distance was quite a fair ways away. Okay, from the end of town heading south to the actual centre of city, Cairns, Lake Street, which is quite a fair distance away. Okay, and you'll see that this was impossible for anyone to do physically. Only as an astral form or spirit form or soul can such things be achieved. Okay, and I didn't know that I'd even done it properly. I didn't even know what I'd achieved at the time until after many, many years of research, looking back on it. And then also at the same time, you've also had to relate the fact that the astral form is very similar to what I was in as the soul form in that realm of light when I was hit by that car. So it's all relevant. The feeling was the same as such in that form. But then when she broke connection, the suction coming back in was not as anywhere near as fierce or ferocious as what I'd experienced with the experience at Westcourt in the house with my mate Leonard that night a couple of days before payday. That was absolutely traumatic. This coming back I was a completely coherent person. I was able to speak, and that's why I was able to ask the questions. Why did Michelle break connection? Why did she pull away with her hand? Completely different to a degree, but still the same feeling as being in astral form. So yeah, that was something that happened to me up in Cairns back in 1992. It's 1990s, man. I had no idea and no conception or any comprehension of what any of this stuff was, other than what I'd already just previously experienced with my near-death experience at 14, being hit by the car, and the out-of-body experience that I'd had. Okay, so there's just so much relevance that validates each individual experience that kind of interconnects to a degree. But after that particular experience, it scared me to the point where I fell into addiction. Okay, I fell into addiction because I had that second taste of a substance. And unfortunately, I fell into addiction so far that my honeymoon the first honeymoon lasted for a good couple of years. And I'm not ashamed of saying that now because I've gotten through it. But the fact is that it made me go through what they call the hero's journey. Okay, I have gone through that hero's journey and gone down into that darkness and that abyssal. Okay, not probably once, but probably twice, if not 3 times now. Not in regards to addiction, but certain hero's journeys that you have to take on this wheel of karma that you have to undertake through that hero's journey every time. It's part of your evolutionary path and journey that unfolds before you. These tasks and difficulties, trials, tribulations that you must overcome or get through as such by the lessons you've learnt along the way that you can use to get through by using this up here, this greatest weapon that we've ever been given, the greatest supercomputer that was ever biologically conceived, a biological super organic computer. That's what this is. That's what this was all about, using this. Okay, but unfortunately I didn't. I dropped into addiction in such a way that I wasn't in a good state. Okay, and it was only by chance that my parents had moved out of Townsville, because I'd moved back from Cairns at this stage by the time I was in full-blown addiction, and staying in a house where we're doing a lot of raves, a lot of parties, doing a lot of mixing, sometimes 2-3 day mix parties where we're sitting up mixing records and just having a personal little rave, as you can see behind me here, little personal rave in our own little bedroom or lounge room or something like that, having a few guests over and just sit there and just party privately, mix records and just have a good time. But that led, when, as the old saying goes, when the come downs outweigh the party, the good times, the party's over. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. And it wasn't until that I fell on my ass, pretty hard, that it woke me up. It woke me up. And that was another near-death experience, because I'd fell so hard into addiction that I actually had overdosed. Yeah, I'd overdosed on ecstasy one particular night at a dance party up in Townsville at the Seaview nightclub. Well, not at the Seaview nightclub as such, at a friend's house in between, funnily enough, a production that I was appearing in, representing an etheric being, so to speak. Okay, and this production was called, funnily enough, Reflections of Light. Yeah. And I was already so heavily into addiction back then that I actually didn't put together the spiritual concept of what was being put together and presented in the actual production. Yeah, I was unfortunately blinded by the drugs. That's how much I was down and deep and dark and dirty. Okay, and it was not a nice place. But I left the production that night after the show had finished, went and saw my mate, and got sorted as such. And I took off with another friend up to my mate's house, and that's where I unfortunately overdosed. I unfortunately stood up too soon after having it, and fell straight backwards like old Rent Boy from old Trainspotting. Yeah, like Rent. Yeah. Unfortunately, just fell straight back, knocked myself clean, cut out, man, But at the same time, I fell into convulsions and was starting to froth at the mouth, overheat, etc. All the normal shit that you'd see with someone overdosing. Just luckily enough, my mate that was with me, who was straight, who didn't do drugs, who was, to me today, looking back on him, Grant, wherever you are in this world, man, thank you, brother. Without your help, this guy would not be standing here and sitting here today smiling, okay, smiling at the camera, saying that I love me. Because if you didn't save my life, I would not have the opportunity to have a daughter, to have the life I've been given, to have this opportunity to sit here and say now thank you. So thank you, Grant, to wherever you are in the world, if you ever get to see this video. Love you, brother. And Grant was diligently by my side the whole time, and he threw me in a shower. You know, I kept me clothes on and everything. You know, funnily enough, when I did come to, I'll get back to, you know, well, actually before I get to coming to, I was in the shower for a good hour and a half, clothes and all, wet as hell. Hair was completely stuffed up. I had to redo my hair later, etc. But after a good hour and a half, my body temperature had come down. I was able to, you know, stop. You know, I wasn't convulsing long. That was the best part. He said, you know, you weren't convulsing long. You weren't foaming at the mouth like others were. You know, it was just like a convulsion for a little bit. Foam was released, etc. It was like your body was releasing and actually pushing out what it didn't need. Looking back on that, knowing now, that makes a lot of logical sense, is that when you have something that your body does not necessarily need, or is a toxin, or something that is not right, what does it naturally do? Blah. We naturally regurgitate. And my ODing was actually a way of purging what I had taken in order to preserve the soul that was inside. And all necessary, all part of the plan, unfortunately, mate. You got to look at it all as, looking back on it now, as all part of this soul contract. You know, this soul contract we undertook before we came here. It's all part of the soul journey and the hero's journey. So looking back on it now, I wouldn't change a thing, because I've learned so much since then as a human being, that this was all meant to be. To get me to where I am now, being able to speak about this openly, share with everyone, with all of you, the world, and be completely transparent about it. You know, that's the best thing, being transparent about it now, and actually being able to share my experiences and use what I've learned to help others learn for themselves, and take a piece of that and incorporate within themselves. Well, if I can do a little bit of that and help someone save their life, then my job's done. Because that's what it's all about, is helping and saving one another, or, you know, lifting each other up, saving one another, giving them information that can help save themselves. You know, there's no other two ways about it. Okay? So yeah, I had these, you know, this incident where I overdosed, and he was with me, and I came to, and I was good. Okay? But that was enough to scare me again. You know, to the point where it wasn't scare me out of drugs, it scared me further into addiction. for a couple more months until I saw an opportunity where I could just get out of Dodge and leave what was there. Now, in this time that I was in Dodge, I was living with a household full of people, you know, doing parties all the time, raves, etc., productions. Party never stopped, you know, maybe 2-3 days a week if it did, where we get to sleep. And the opportunity came around that presented itself where my parents, who whilst I was living this lifestyle, were living in Brisbane at the time. They were living in Brisbane, and my dad was working for a coach company, driving to and from Rockhampton and south to the Gold Coast, etc. And they moved back for me. They moved back for me because they knew that I was in trouble, and basically they took his job. He transferred back to Townsville, same job still, but they went to a shitty housing commission house in what I would consider to be like Townsville's version of South Central LA. Just ridiculous. My parents, won't go into this. But anyway, that place was wrong. Okay. But anyway, they came back, and this opportunity presented itself where they said, you know, we know what you're doing. We've seen it. We've heard from your cousin who's been living with you. Okay. My cousin was living with me, and she had let my parents know through her parents, my mum's sister, what was going on for me and how much in deep I was concerned as a cousin, you know, and I love her for that. Okay. And I'm thankful because without my parents coming back, I would not be able to have that opportunity where I was able to say, see you later, packed all my shit. And that's being honest, I packed all my stuff. I just got out of Dodge, went back home, and I didn't touch anything. Didn't touch pot, didn't touch speed, didn't touch anything, didn't touch alcohol. I was on straight and narrow, and only a few weeks later, I turned 21. Okay, so this is the ages between 18, 19 and 20, okay, that I was in Cairns and Townsville when all this happened, and then when my parents moved back, I was 20 going on 21. Okay, so it's a good 3 years, you can count it as, that I was in this honeymoon stage. Yeah. 3 years can go like that when you're in honeymoon, especially when the good times are outweighing the parties. You know, when the parties and when the come downs outweigh the party, the good times are over. Yeah. But anyway, I got home and I made myself stay conscious of the fact that I didn't want to be involved in any of that anymore. I didn't realise at the time that I was actually doing part of the 12 steps. Okay. But I was able to turn 21 a few weeks later. Celebrated that with my parents and their friends. I didn't really want anyone from that sort of group or background or crew that I was with back then, coming to my 21st and embarrassing me potentially. So I was quite happy to spend it with my parents and, their friends. It was actually quite nice and quaint. It was quiet. It was enjoyable. You know what I mean? It's not the sort of 21st that most people have where they get drunk and have to drink through a yard glass and get blind, rotten, shit-faced and carry on like a half-wit. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Once in a blue moon when you're young, all in moderation. But yeah, I didn't do any of that, and it was a great 21st. And we moved to Brisbane the day after, because we already had a place organised in Brisbane to move to and everything, because my parents wanted to get the hell out of Dodge and Townsville, wanted to move back to Brisbane and have Dad take up his job back with the coach company down here. So we did that. The 16th of December in 1994, we moved from Townsville, boom, straight down to Brisbane. It took us day and a half to drive here. We arrived on the 18th of December, okay, and we went straight to a good Christmas party, which was awesome back then because every relative was there that I hadn't seen in years, and it was just all this sense of bonding and reconnecting with family and just further solidifying for me all the more reasons why I had given up what I was doing and further propelling myself to reconnect with family and to do something with myself because I was 21 now. And being in a big city, lots of opportunities. So I took the initiative of going to TAFE, well, more so art college, and I decided to become graphic designer. and I decided to do textile design as well. Textile design was first, which propelled me into graphic art and design at art college afterwards. But that was awesome, you know, because I had this 3-year period where I was clean, straight, doing everything. I actually even got my payout in that time from my car accident, my near-death experience. I even managed to put on my own production, which was what I would say, it was very, you know, successful in the sense of being not financial, not successful in making the money back. I didn't even break even. What I was successful in was being able to achieve what I'd set out up here to do that was coming from here. And that was promoting people and getting them out there and actually having a really good connection with these people where, look, our passion for music is what drove us all, especially. I mean, that was the biggest thing that connected us all. And we found that love for music is what made us so inherently connected as well. We found so many different bonds and so many different traits and personality, you know, things that we had going on within each other's lives. It was so similar that we got on like family. It was like finding other starseeds in the digital rave scene back then that were actually what I call digital hippies of today. You know, that's what we were. We were digital hippies of this age, you know, in the 90s. You know, God help us, we're heading towards our 50s now. Excuse me. But yeah, this was something that I enjoyed. You know, I was really enjoying my life, and doing my party was a really good success for me in the sense that I'd achieved what I'd set out to do up here and in here, and didn't matter about the money. You know, I'd only made about half my money back. That's fine. Cool. I still achieved. But the next night after going home, and you know, we slept that morning when we went home, that night I went out to another party that was in actually competition with myself that drew more people within the scene to the actual acts that were, you know, performing there. Thinking to myself, back then, you know, in your 20s, you kind of take a little bit things to heart. I was, you know, at this stage, you know, I was 23, and I took a little bit to heart, and thinking to myself, these people could, you know, potentially could have been my customers that could have bought my tickets, but this, I'll say it, this son of a bitch, you know, put on a good old party that was better than mine, you know, and he was. I will say it as I did. He was a son of a bitch, because what he did was actually out of animosity, because I was meant to actually originally work with him, but his ideas weren't where myself and my partner at the time were going with our direction, so we decided to do our own thing. So this particular individual, won't mention their name, MW, he put on a party out of spite to potentially take away ticket sales, as he knew he could, because he was actually one of the biggest producers and promoters within Brisbane that we did approach. My bad. I made an enemy out of someone that I didn't need to make an enemy out of by saying no. If I'd actually trusted his judgment, maybe it could have gone a different way. He could have maybe taken 10% over the overall that we could have made back. Could have been a whole different story, but I chose to do my own path. Okay? All a big learning experience. Okay? But yeah, he spitefully, unfortunately, did go out of his way and actually even ruined some of my promotional things that I was putting out. This person did. And it wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice time, but I still persevered and pushed through and did this. But when I went out and went to his party and saw that these, you know, people were potentially people that could have come to my party the night before, I did get depressed. And that night, I did the unthinkable after being clean for so long. I had another taste. And that led me into 3 more years. Yeah. Big mistake to a degree, but lesson well bloody learnt. Because if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met my wife. Nor would I have had my daughter. That's the beautiful part of it all. So when I met her, after 3 years of addiction, another 3 years of the hero's journey, going back through the blackness to crawl my way out, only to find love. Or love found me, only across the road. Funnily enough, she was right across the road. And we fell in love with each other, and we had a beautiful child. And in that 5.5 years that I was with her, you know, like, I got clean straight away. Just as soon as I met her, I dropped everything. You know, it was a road of trial and tribulation due to the fact that I had, obviously by that stage, from too many times of exposure to this off and on substance, I had a certain amount of psychosis. And, you know, that takes time to get through. Psychologically, physically, mentally, spiritually, vibrationally, frequency, okay? Everything is out of whack, okay? And it takes a hell of a woman to have patience with someone going through that when they've had no experience with someone like that whatsoever. My hat goes off to you. I thank you, Lani. Thank you. What a woman. What a woman. And to produce the beautiful daughter that we have together. You know, as much as it was only the time that we were meant to spend together, I'm grateful in every way, eternally, in every way. Thank you. And I love you still as a from one human being to another. Thank you for being my wife and honoring me, and as I had honored you. Thank you. Because as much as things didn't end between everyone, things did not end well between myself and Lani. It did not end well. But this is how much that I am actually in a position now, after so many years of looking back on things, working on myself, looking at my part and saying, sorry for the microphone, looking at my part and saying, what did I have to own in that relationship that forced her to leave the way that she left? What did I do? Well, there was a lot. And she put up with a lot. Okay, and that's saying the least, okay? That's just being honest. Okay, she put up with a lot from me. And I wasn't the person that you see today back then. I was a totally different person, someone that you would not want to talk to. But that's putting my hand up and saying I actually had a problem I had to deal with. Yeah. And when she left, I worked my guts out for a year, thinking, you know, this is going to be all right. You're going to be okay. You're not going to falter. You're not going to fall. And after a year of working, I moved in with my sister. And, yeah, fell for a third time. Yeah, fell for a third time. I fell. Unfortunately, it had gotten the better of me. And it led to another nearly 2.5, 3 years. By this stage, my daughter was 4. I'd missed out on, you know, a bit of my daughter's first 4 years off and on. Like, as much as I had court papers and I stuck to them adamantly, and every weekend, oh my God, it was my joy, counting down the days till I got her. For those 3 days and 2 nights, that was when I got to live and actually be straight and actually feel complete. I didn't have to do drugs or drink or anything whilst I had her there. But I also, when she was there, dreaded the hours that came after she left. That was the hardest part, because knowing full well that I was in addiction, again, after Alana had left, you know, this is the third time. And they always say third time's a charm, okay? Because I knew full well this time I was going to hit rock bottom. You know, this time I actually did hit rock bottom. You know, I won't go into the ins and outs of everything, but I did actually try to commit, you know, suicide. I sat in front of a train on the train lines waiting for a train to come, but my sister's partner at the time, he came and found me. Thank Lord above. Obviously someone was looking out for me, because he came and found me. And he said, get the fuck off the tracks, excusing my language, but that's exactly the words he used. And I was refusing to go. So he dragged my ass off those tracks, kicking and screaming. I was adamant, I was going to go. I was out of here. Okay? And looking back on it now, I can tell you now, I'm thankful for that too, because I would not be able to sit here today and have these experiences that I can share with you and know full well that if I had gone at that moment, who would have been here to look after my daughter? What sort of trauma would that left her? What sort of questions would that leave her? How would she react to the rest of her life? How would her life, play out without her daddy here? These are fundamental questions. The love that she held for her dad would have been torn away. She'd be a totally different person. She would have not been able to experience trust or intimacy on a level with her partner in the future because of her loss of her father as well. It all plays out energetically as well. So these are the things that drove me to admitting I had a massive problem. And I checked myself in. Finally, this is where I got to a point at 33 years of age where I knew I had to have either time out or I was going to die. So I checked myself into 7 months. Okay, at a rehabilitation centre run by the Salvation Army. And my mum always said to me, Chris, as I was growing up, she said, Chris, never knock the Salvation Army, Chris, because they saved my life when I was a little girl growing up, because my mum grew up in the homes, and when she came out, she tried to commit suicide from losing her son, and Salvos were there for her, and she said, never knock the Salvos, Chris, they'll be there for you one day and they'll help you too. And I was like, in my teens, young and dumb, yeah, ma, right. Yeah, right. But anyway, she was not half wrong, because they took me in a heartbeat without even saying no. Didn't even bat an eyelid. They just said, come on in, welcome. They gave me a bed straight away in the detox unit. I was there for 11 days. I detoxed off, speed, marijuana. I was drinking as well. So all three, I had a very high tolerance to everything at that point. I'm being honest here. I'm being raw. I'm being down and dirty and gritty. Okay. I had psychosis. I was angry. I was bitter. And at the time, I wasn't even thankful or grateful to my wife. This is before I'd gotten even under program. It was whilst I was on program that I came to looking at myself and owning my shit and taking an inventory of my own personal stuff, realizing where I'd pushed her to beyond her boundaries of putting up with me anymore, which led me to owning my own stuff, that led me to actually making a phone call whilst on program to her directly and actually saying, I am so sorry. To own my own stuff and apologize to her out of respect and dignity for her, because she deserved that after all she'd done and put up with. But I was upstairs 11 days. I detoxed. They asked me if you want to go downstairs on program for 7 months. I did. I signed up. Signed up straight away. Okay? Did my 7 months. Got out of there. Best thing, I can tell you now. Best thing I ever did. Best thing. For here and for here. And for my daughter. Because, I have her today in my life. My best mate. She's my best mate. Even though we've been distant over the times, because, as they grow, they have their own opinions, feelings, thoughts. They formulate this stuff because of what they're exposed to. Indoctrination systems, belief structures, control. And we've clashed. And that's okay, because that's all part of her path too. Okay, and I have to accept it. But also looking back on my life at where I was at 20 years of age and looking at her at 20, she's a damn angel, mate, compared to what I was. A damn angel. She's just having a rough little trot at the moment. She's going to get through it. Okay, but that's what dad is for. I'm here. She's moving back in with me with her partner in the next couple of weeks, and I couldn't be happier that her and her partner and their 2 cats, Luna and Erin, are moving in with me and my little kitty cat that I've just gotten myself. His name's Bodhi, and we're all going to be living here happily. So it's going to be awesome having my kid and her partner and sharing that connection with them as adults in my home and sharing with them now. It's just going to be a massive, beautiful thing. I can't wait for it. But none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for the fact that I had to put the hard work in. And that was called also changing people, places, things, the way we looked at stuff, the way we consciously thought about things, how we approached things, how we just do things in general in our everyday life was what had to change within me. Like if I was going to Woolworths to go get shopping, I had to remind myself, keep walking past that bottle, mate. You don't need it. It's a conscious thought. It only takes a second. It actually only takes 21 to 23 days for the average person to neuro-linguistically rechange their brain pattern and way of thinking, to change it to a different way of thinking and retrain it to do something positive. Now, with rehab, it took 7 months, okay, for these people that were on highs, as we were, to come down to a point where we could logically, rationally, and reasonably think about things on a level that was most humane and dignifying, to the point where we could come to the most reasonable conclusions, okay? And I took those paths and those journeys and those truths and those lessons right here, and I took it to the extent where I knew that I needed to make this work if it was going to work. Because that's what they say, you know, it works if you work it. You know? One of the biggest things that I got from rehab when I was there was the acronym for the word FEAR, F-E-A-R. You can either everything and run or face everything and recover. You got what I'm saying? Everything and run or face everything and recover. It's easy as that. Plain and simple. There's no other two ways about it. Okay, so I took that F-E-A-R and I applied it to me. That's the only way I could say it. I applied it. I wanted to face everything and recover. There's everything and more to be gained in facing yourself. There's only nothing but fear, aggression, hatred, bitterness, self-loathing, self-grandiosity, etc., that all comes from that unbeautiful sense of self that actually likes to be always boasting about how they are when they're in addiction. The person that does not face themselves is always the one that will run and always will sit there and boast the most about themselves. The person that has the most to say as such is the person that's done the least work on themselves internally as well. That's why I don't post very often. I'm actually trying to get over my camera fear. Okay, that's a fear that I have right now. Face everything and recover, plain and simple. I have to face this fear of being on camera. As you can see, most of the way through this video, I've looked away from the camera. I'm looking at myself on the screen like I am now. Okay, but here I am looking at the camera, and as you can see, I'm looking directly at you. But that's the thing. I have to face my fear of getting over this camera thing. Okay, and actually getting on here and talking about this stuff and being open like this, because we all have our little traumas that we still are getting through, and I'm still working through mine. I'm not perfect like anyone, okay, but the fact is that I'm making a conscientious effort at trying to overcome and still applying those fundamentals that I learned now 17 years later. This year, November 23rd this year, this month, I left rehab 17 years ago. Okay, so 17, funnily enough. Okay, this was not 2006 that this happened. I was in rehab. It's now 2022. That's 17 years this year. Thank you, cyber military intelligence. So I got to keep looking at the camera. Okay, but yeah, you know, it's been a rough journey. I'm not going to say it hasn't been. Hasn't been an easy journey. There's been a lot of crying, a lot of tribulations, a lot of trials. There's been triumphs, and a lot of them. I'm grateful to every one of them, good and bad. You know why? Because without them, the path and the journey would not be complete. The path and the journey would not be complete. We have to go through these things. You can't just dodge them, go around them, or go through them. Well, you can go through them. You've got to go through them as such, but you can't go through them and take them head on as such, thinking that you're invincible. Sometimes you've got to put your hand up and say, I need a little help. And that's what I did. I was 33, back on my third addiction, third honeymoon, and I needed help. Now, all the while, being at rehab as well, when you're getting clean and you're starting to get back into a sense of connecting with Source, it was good for me because I already had a sense of understanding of what Source was due to the fact that I'd had my near-death experience. Okay. Now, when you're in rehab and you're getting clean and your vibration and frequency is raising due to the fact that it's not being suppressed by a chemical substance that's keeping and dumbing your body and frequency down, your body's frequency and vibration starts to raise to a point where you start to attract other entities, especially in what I would consider lower 4D, the things that go bump in the night. Okay. Now, whilst in rehab, I had a couple of experiences there with shadow people, things that moved across my wall in such a way that made my skin and hair stand up on end, that it moved across the wall and out to the door at the end of my bedroom, where there was a light emanating enough underneath the door from the hallway in our dormitory that the light was blocked out when it left the room, and then the light would reappear. It was like something out of a movie. It was crazy. Okay, but full humanoid form, roughly 10, 12 foot tall, standing as high as these room ceilings in my room, and then moving in such a way that it comes down on an angle and then moves under the door, blocking out the light underneath it, and then when it disappears, you know, the light comes back and reappears again. I mean, like, what the hell? And that wasn't once, that was twice I'd experienced that. Another time I actually experienced this shadow person standing at the end of my bed in my dormitory, in my room, and it freaked up bejeebus out of me, mate. And all I could think of was back to when I was a little boy at that house at Penrith, that my mum, and this is something that I didn't actually get to put in my interview with Robert L. White, was that my mum, back when I was around about 4.5 years of age, had an experience where she experienced a cloaked hooded figure that was black and shadowy at the end of her bed, that when she woke up and saw this thing and acknowledged its presence, it dematerialized and disappeared right before her eyes. This thing was standing at the end of my bed, so close that if I was to lean forward on my bed and reach out, I could touch it, okay? That's how much it was physically, tangibly there for me, and I acknowledged it. I knew it was there. And I looked at it and I just went, because I was learning about spirituality and reconnecting to source and everything at that stage, because they say in rehab with your 12 steps, you need to reconnect to a higher power. Well, I reconnected with that feeling, emotion, energy, spirit that I connected with when I had my near-death experience. That's what I used as my higher power, and my daughter as my drive to getting clean. Okay? But what I said was to this thing, I cast you out. Oh, sorry, I bind you, I rebuke you, and I cast you out now in the name of our Creator of all things. Now let light be filled within you and leave this place. You are no longer here. You are cast out forthwith within. You know? And this thing left. It left underneath the door. It didn't disappear or dematerialize like the one at the end of my mum's bed. This thing physically like dropped down into the floor like a puddle, okay, and moved like that black goo, okay? It moved like black goo, but it wasn't there physically. It was like a translucent sort of thing that was there but not there, like a black ethericness to it or something. I don't know the words to describe it as such, but it was there and it blocked out the light as it went underneath my door. That was the second time it went underneath my door when it left. I don't know what it was, but I know that it was a shadow being nonetheless that I was experiencing. Okay? But in saying that, I also know that I was in a very good place, okay, and with very good people, and it was very spirited community, people that were wanting to get clean. There was the odd person that came through that took the piss out of the program, and you know, they didn't want to really take it seriously or whatever, but they were quickly ejected, and they quickly pretty much shoot themselves in the foot by going out and busting whilst on program. Okay, they'd take off at night time and go to the clubs and think they'd be smart enough to get past the security and get back in their bed, only to be found out that when they go to assembly the next morning, hoit out the front door they'd go. You know, that would have been found out. Don't know how, but that wasn't a risk that it wasn't something that I was prepared to take. I took my program seriously. Okay, and it got me to where I am. It got me to where I am. But anyway, you know, I had these experiences, and knowing that I was in a spiritual place and with all these good people and doing good internal work on myself and facing my fears, facing my anxieties, facing and owning my inventory and my own shit, and actually saying sorry not only to the others that had been involved in things that had been done to me, but actually owning my shit and saying sorry to people that I'd done things to. Okay. And as I said, by doing so, it raises your vibration, your frequency. You're eating great food, eating great food as well. That's healthy for you, nutritional in value, high in vibration frequency, all organic produce as well. I was eating the whole time. I was given a position in the kitchen whilst I was there, which was great, because I was doing chefing and things in my past. So having a position in the kitchen gave me something to work towards every day as well. Direction, something to look forward to when I got up. And but I had experiences at chapel on a Thursday, or I had an experience as such with in chapel one night where I felt a massive set of hands go around my entire upper torso from behind, like really big hands. See, I'm bringing my hands closer to the camera. I felt like a really big set of hands had gone around my shoulders and my chest and my back, and there was this warm glow all over because I was taking my chapel seriously. I wanted to connect further to Creator because I'd had that connection. A lot of people struggled, unfortunately, with the concept of what Creator, Source, God was, because they had to find something to do that. I was luckily enough one of those individuals that had that connection by experiencing the NDE. But I had this experience where these hands were there around my shoulders, around my chest, and I felt the warmth and the love that I felt in chapel from those hands was the same love and warmth that I felt in the realm of light that I was in when I got hit by the car when I was at my near-death experience. I'm not kidding you. No word of a lie, okay? Same sort of feeling all over, from head to toe, side to side, inside and out. That reconnection to Source. And it has spurred me continually, knowing that that is real. It is real. We are it. It is us. We are one with it. It has no gender. It has no agenda as well as gender. It has no gender as well as no agenda. It has no physiology. It has no... It's an all-knowing, all-creative consciousness being that's made of pure energy and love at its core, that is able to manifest even just for a moment while someone's banging out of their body, a place for them to stand in where they're safe, knowing full well that they're experiencing a moment that can hold on to for 36, 37 years, and know full well that that person who's experienced it will find the true answers that I've come to myself today. Okay? Knowing full well that that was all connected, the near-death experience and this experience and the energy in between, all of it in between was all worth it. I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change a thing. Because this is who we are. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and blow smoke out your backsides, like I probably feel like I probably wasn't as forthcoming as much as I probably would have liked to have been with my upload, with Robert. I would have loved to probably even touch base on these things here with Robert, but I thought maybe also in the back of my mind as well, maybe I should leave this for a bit of a more personal experience for my channel, for all the views to get to know me, because, and I'm hoping that this isn't too much that YouTube decide to take this one down as well, because I have touched base on some pretty sensitive subjects and topic matter. Okay, subject matter and topic right now, my personal experiences that are such, and they have been, mine to experience alone. They have no right to take this down. It does worry me that they're going to take it down. I hope not, fingers crossed. But these experiences are what made me and who I am, and they're undeniable. The addiction was all part of it. My marriage breakdown, that was all part of it. Having the the stool ripped out from underneath me by Lani, and having the limelight taken off me and taken down a notch or 200 was exactly what I needed. Because my ego was so at play and so hyperinflated. And actually, looking back on myself now, I'm actually still even shocked to think that that was me. It actually kind of still, upsets me a little bit, and that's something that I'm still working on because I'm trying to let go of that. I still blame myself a bit. But I've had to own it. I've had to own it. And the reason why you see my emotion at the moment is because I just miss the connection of family. I don't have that, like most people would experience. And it has been a very long road, but it's very necessary because it had to teach me to learn to love myself. That was the best part about it. Can you understand that? Self-love was the best part, learning. Because if you can't love yourself, you cannot love another. And I'm still learning to love myself, but I've done a lot of learning enough to know that I do love myself and can say in the mirror, confidently with my hand touching myself on that mirror, looking myself square in the eye and saying, I love you, with a smile, and laugh in absolute laughter, and knowing full well I mean it, because I do. I love me. And you've got to love yourself too. That's all part of it. Healing, changing your way of thinking, because even your thinking and speaking it aloud, saying I hate you, you're not worthy, and all those sorts of things are vibration and frequency. They create geometric patterns also, okay, that are negative to your DNA, okay. These are all the beautiful things that I've discovered along the way, is that everything is manifestation through vibration and frequency. And what is this? This vibrates at a frequency. And our intention is consciousness. You couple those two together, and that manifests that reality into reality. So if you're going to be angry and have animosity towards someone and have a thought that's irrational towards someone and actually go on the attack, expect to be attacked. Expect to have verbal coming back at you. Expect possibly to get physical. That's why it's called conscious thought. Being conscious of everything we say we do, and of self. Okay? Here's another thing that I also learned about being on rehab as well, is that being on program, there's only a 0.3% success rate. I actually had to write this down because I actually had no idea. But there's 0.3 success percent ratio of people not taking or up substances ever again that actually go through program and actually graduate. 0.3. That's tiny. That's not even a 1 percentile yet. Okay, 0.3. So that's 3 in 10, or 3 in 100, if you will. Success stories are keeping clean. That's not a very big, success ratio percentile, is it? So it's a matter of how much you want it, how much you want to get clean, how much you want to be authentic and real and actually be transparent with yourself and get clean and heal. I wanted it at 110%. I wanted it at 110%. I grabbed on with 2 hands so tight that I went white knuckle, man, all the way. Okay, and I'm proud of that. It was a humbling experience because without taking that 7 months out, I wouldn't be here. Okay? I wouldn't be here. See, I got to look back at the camera. Yeah, sorry. I'm so used to looking at everything. I'm looking mainly at the light behind me. But yeah, I wouldn't be here. It's been a humbling experience. As hard as it has been, and with all the trials and tribulations and the good times, the heartache, I wouldn't change a thing. Because you know why? Because it was all part of the plan. It had to be. Looking back on it now, everything has been out of my control the whole freaking time. Because when you look at it, looking back from these things that happened from early age, this is not by chance. This is by grand design. There is a sequence of timeline events that have all coherently interacted and interlocked with each other to create this timeline. So, I don't know, mate. All I know is that this was all meant to be. It was all meant to be in some way, fashion, shape or form. It was all meant to be. And one way or the other, I would have made it to where I am, regardless of the journey. Because it was all part of it. I mean, like, you all know, we volunteered for this mission. We all put our hand up and we said, yeah, we're coming. We know what was left behind, who was left behind. We decided. It was unanimous. We had to. I won't go into that. I'll save that for another video, because I have a lot of other experiences that I'd like to share. I've got even stuff that I've written down from meditations that I've come back and written down from my meditations, coherently remember from my meditations, and they're absolutely extraordinary. Even having a friend of mine that died when I was 16, who hung himself in his girlfriend's front yard. He came to me in a meditation, and I didn't realize it was him until after I'd come back from the meditation as such, and I could hear him in my head, but I couldn't recognize him through the beard and the long hair. Like, he had this beard and long hair in the meditation and dressed in white, and he disappeared. And it wasn't until I came back that I heard the voice and I realized, oh, I know who that is, but I'm going to save that for another video. Okay? But all my I've had other out-of-body experiences that have been absolutely amazing, where so peculiar that it blows my socks off. Still trying to get my head around it, still trying to understand it all. Maybe you can help me in the comments below when I do those videos in the future. In saying that, please leave your comments below today and give me a like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps the algorithm in YouTube to get my video out there a little bit further, and get to a wider audience, because unfortunately we know about the YouTube shadow banning algorithms, unfortunately. So yeah, give me all the likes and a thumbs up, guys. Bonza. Thanks. But yeah, having only a 98.7% chance of possibly, there is a good possibility at 98% or 98.7% chance that people will pick up substances and abuse them again. I'm lucky to be one of those 0.3% chances that didn't. And that's why I am here now sharing this with you, because I have, as that 0.3% margin ratio that is a success rate, I now have a moral obligation and duty as a human being to use what I have learnt up here, and along the way my experiences and what I feel in here now, and share it with as many people as possible that have gone through similar substance abuses, have struggled with their experiences like that and trying to get clean, and help them in such a way so that they can take a piece of what I've got to share and incorporate it with themselves. And what I will share with you is that I used my daughter, as a means to drive and perpetuate myself further forward to get myself clean, plain and simple. Your kids are the only thing. You got to want it for yourself and love yourself, but if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Okay? Because by starting out as doing it for your kids, you've started it out with a positive vibration and intention and frequency for another. That's being of service to another. And by being service to another, it brings back positive energies back on you that helps raise your vibration and frequency in such a way that you start to believe in yourself and have confidence in such a way that you actually want to actually share things with others and help them believe in themselves and love themselves and treat themselves with respect and dignity. Because that's what we all deserve, is to treat ourselves, our temple, our body, our mind, our spirit, as a temple. with respect and dignity and love. You wouldn't go into someone else's home, put your feet on their coffee table or drop a cigarette butt on their floor, or the same thing as your body. You don't want to put shit inside your temple to fire the furnace to keep your place warm, okay, or to keep the body running. Mind, body, spirit as one. That's where it is, people. You've got to bring this all together, consciously, conscientiously. Every thought, everything that we do, it's hard at first, like even getting out of rehab. As much as I neurolinguistically changed my mindset over a period of 7 months, the real test came when I got out. Because when I got out, I went back to starting to work again. I started working. I went to cash converters. I worked on the opposite side of the bloody loans desk. Hey, how's that for irony? Fate is not without a sense of irony. I was on the opposite side of the bloody loans desk. Instead of getting a loan, I was giving the loans. Yeah, that was my old day. So, I got back to work and I was doing an honest dollar and I was working, and even some ex-participants from Moonya, where I was at on program, actually showed up at my loan store to try and get loans. Okay, and you could see that they were unfortunately back in addiction, which really, it did break my heart, man. And I wonder where they are today. I really do, because it's been 17 years. I hope that they're all still alive. But yeah, there was several people that came in, to the loans department of cash converters, and they asked for loans on their father's golf clubs and stuff like that. And I was like, well, it's all insured, bloody, yep, no problem. Because, that's what I was thinking. I know full well it's all insured money, and if it's stolen, he gets done. It's not my problem, man. At the end of the day, that's the way the policy works with cash converters. It's out of my hands. If you've broken the law, expect to hear a knock at the door. So, that just says it all, people. You've got to love yourself. You've got to love yourself enough to want to actually do better, to actually have a life, to want to live. You've got to want to love yourself enough to live. Okay? You've got to want to love yourself enough to live, to give up a substance or an addiction in order to live, so that you can have that bond, connection, and love, not only with yourself, but with your kids and your family and new friends that you'll make along the way. That's what's really important. All of these things are all meant to be. They're yours for the taking if you want them bad enough. It's just a matter of how bad you want it. And that's called being authentic and getting real with yourself. And getting transparent, being truthful, honest, raw. That's the big thing, getting raw, taking an inventory. Because once you do that, even if you write it down, write your inventory down. Write it down, and when you're done, you look at that stuff and weigh up the good to the bad and go, holy dooly, wow, I need to really look at myself and actually work on myself. And with that bad one, scrunch it up and burn it, because that's a part of who your past was. It's no longer who you are today, okay, and who you want to be in the future. And look at that list of all the things that were good that you were balancing up with that bad, that didn't quite weigh up, and think to yourself, what else about me do I love and like about myself that I can add to that good list, that are my positive attributes that I can contribute to society and to my life and others that are great? What else can I put on that list? And if you can add to that by 5 or 10, then you're doing good. Because that means you obviously still have enough respect for yourself to love yourself, to come up with some things that you still know to be true about yourself. Okay? And that is what can spur you into having new beliefs, new avenues, segueing into new interests as such as well. And by getting clean, I took back up hobbies and interests that I hadn't been interested in for quite a while, like model making. I hadn't made aeroplanes or jet fighters or anything for years. And I took that back up again. I took music back up again as well. because I gave that all up when I met, my wife. So it'd been a good, by this stage, it'd been a good 6 years, 7 years since I played music. Excuse me. Been about at least 20 years since I'd made a model kit. But you know what it's like, when you're riding a bike, once you've done it and you've mastered it, you never forget. Same as DJing. Once you've played a record and learned how to mix properly, beat mixing, and learned how to do, and have harmonics and frequencies overlapping and layering each other in such a way that it fits like a glove going over a hand, you never forget. You can come back to it again, okay? Well, that's exactly what it was like for me. I took all these hobbies and things back up, and attributes and interests that I had let go of over the years because of my stupid addictions, because of my stupid fascinations and fixations on things that really, at the end of the day, did me no good. They just did me harm and got me into trouble, okay? And I took up, exo-history, forbidden history as such, exo-archaeology, ufology, ancient history, if you wanted to a degree as well, because I had that spiritual aspect from being in rehab at the time. I came back out and looking at all the biblical and spiritual religious texts from around the world, and looking and comparing at all the different notes and legends that had been written, as and myths, all the doctrine that had been written, and comparing and weighing up and thinking to myself, there's just so many inconsistencies, and there's obviously two things that are going on here. Like, what else do I not know? And that's what led me to all of these things that I know today. And I mean, as you can see by my other videos, the earlier videos in Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under, I have quite a great fundamental understanding of what's actually been happening on this earth for the better part of 100,000 years, and how much these outside forces have been here for that long or more, and the true history of our history, not the lie that's been fabricated by those that were victorious in war to rewrite history in their favour. It doesn't take a genius to work that out. But we can see straight through the veil of their bullshit right now, and the veil is being lifted day by day, even more so, energetically, to where the point where we know their narrative is going to fail. It's imminent now. It's imminent. I'm not going to go into that. But can you see how, by taking care of oneself, mind, body, spirit, treating yourself with love, respect, dignity, gratitude, having respect and honour for yourself in such a way that you are able to step back in life, use your daughter in such a way to perpetuate yourself further into the future by, loving yourself enough to, love your daughter, love everything around you, to get clean, to move forward in such a way that you don't have to look back and actually have that fearful state over, in the back of your mind, that you got to look over the back of your shoulder every now and again. You can leave that sort of state of mind behind, that vibration and frequency as well. And move forward in such a way that you now are on this path where you can look back at everything and go, holy shit, like, wow, like there is obviously something that is at hand here that's not in my control, that's designed all of this, and this contract that I upheld and undertook before coming here, that is playing out perfectly to the way it was actually written. I am merely just a simple note in the verse throughout the chorus of this universe. I am simply just one note out of many notes that are in this verse of the universe. Does that make sense? We are all merely notes on this scale of vibration and frequency, and it's all changing. We are getting there, and I had to have that belief in myself that I could do this so that I could be the best possible dad to her. Otherwise she wouldn't have a dad. Otherwise I wouldn't be here today to speak, to be able to love myself. I have a little kitty cat that I've got now, a new kitty cat called Bodie. Bodie's F.E.A.R. Sinclair, okay, my new little buddy, and he's so adorable. Okay, but that's the thing, all of these pleasures and things that you love to have in your life are not possible if I had have done the wrong thing and taken the easy way out back then. That train wasn't meant to be, was it? That overdose wasn't meant to be, was it? None of them were meant to be. I'm still here. I'm still smiling. That's the thing. I'm still smiling. regardless. And that's what matters, is that having that love allows you to smile again at yourself. Because I remember there was a time in my life when I could not smile. Okay? So it's just a matter of how much you want it, how bad you can taste it in the back of your mind and your throat that you want a better life. How much do you really want it? Are you going to go and reach out, like Em said, and capture it? Or are you going to let it slip? Well, I chose to grab on with both hands, and I went for that ride, and I would not change a thing, because everything is beautiful today. Beautiful today. But without unlearning what I had learned, I would not be able to discern. And being able to learn discernment, having learned discernment, goes hand in hand with having intuition. Because as you raise your vibration and frequency and having discernment and using your brain to logically go through things and coming to the right conclusions and not doing yourself any harm along the way and actually treating yourself with love, raises your vibration and frequency. Along with good food, good lifestyle, good exercise, good mindset, good friends, good support, good networks, good energy, everything. It all goes hand in hand. It's just a matter of how much you want it. How much do you want that drink in the morning? How much do you want that drug in the morning? How much do you want to gamble in the morning? How much do you want to go and have sex in the morning? Everything. It's all of it. All of these addictions are all the same. They can be treated the same way. Okay, it's a matter of how much you want it. Do you want those things bad enough to go and bust every day because you really don't give a flying? Or do you actually care enough to give a flying and actually care about yourself and love yourself enough to get better? Well, for me, there was only one choice: get better. So that's where I'm at, people. I had to do all these things in order to, I had to get real. I had to get raw. I had to get dirty and authentic and transparent with myself, face my shit, take an inventory, say sorry, be appropriately, energetically forthcoming in such a way that it actually brought me to tears when I actually said sorry, to mean it, not just say it. Because people say that word sorry and sling it around so easily, and they think that it's actually so easy to use that word and get through things so that everything's better. No, it's the damage that's been done that remains. The word has been said, yes, you may be sorry, and verbally. It's called show it. And it doesn't matter who it is or what it is, or even for yourself. You have to be sorry that you treated yourself and forgive yourself. Because that's the big key as well, forgiving yourself, not just the other people that have done wrong to you or you've done wrong to. You got to forgive yourself too. Because you did this to yourself. You can walk 20 years into the woods, into the darkness, excuse me, but you got to walk 20 years back out. That's plain and simple. Basic logic. And it's up to you how long you want to spend in those woods. You can spend 2 years in the woods going through darkness and addiction, or you can spend 6 years, 8 years, nearly 10 years. It doesn't matter. The longer you walk through addiction and in the darkness and through the woods, the longer it takes to get back out. And that's the truth of it all. And I loved myself enough to get myself out to be here today, to be able to speak about this, to love myself, to love my daughter, to love my mum, to love my dad, to think about the pain that would have left them, knowing full well that if I'd done something stupid, how would they be able to live the rest of their lives without me in it? How would they be traumatized by it all? And knowing full well they'd have to celebrate my birthdays, the Christmases without me there anymore. That lack of presence, that shadow in the seat that's no longer there. The person that's outside of the peripheral vision, but when you look, they're no longer there. I didn't want to be that statistic. And neither should you. And in saying that, you should love you. Love you enough to want better. Love yourself enough, so much so, and love everything there is about you and all those things that make you you, that makes you great, to spur you forward. If you've got a kid that you love so much, you made that child from love with your partner. Use that love that you hold for your child to propel yourself to be a better parent so that you can get straight and clean. It's the only way that leads to authenticity and being real and transparent with oneself so that you can do these things and move forward. Without it, I'll give you straight up one word right now. Loser. You'll lose out every time if you bullshit yourself. And that's plain and simple, okay? I'm giving you the truth, plain and simple. I'll look at myself right in the camera right now saying it. That's right, isn't it, Chris? Yes, it is. Okay? Got to let love back in order to, you got to let love back in just in general, in your heart. Love is the fundamental thing, the dynamo that runs this universe. Love is the dynamo of this universe. It's the fundamental fabric of what runs and creates and puts everything together. I believe that, this is where we're all coming to now. We're coming to a point in history where no more lies, no more secrecy, no more darkness, no more veil of, negativity anymore as such. It's all coming to a header where we're going to now know the truth. The truth is all going to come out. The validations, the acknowledgements for one's self are going to come from these truths, showing full well that the time spent doing the research and the inner work on oneself has not been wasted. Because by doing all of this stuff for ourselves now, especially in the last God knows how many years that we've all been probably on this journey, is going to put us in a position where we can help others in a big way in the future, especially with what's about to come. And we know what's coming because we've been listening to the intel. We know, okay? But I'm not going to go into that. This is a different video. But in saying that, that gives me solace knowing full well that we've already made it and that our job has only just begun. Doesn't that excite you? Excites me. Excites the crap out of me to know full well that this is the future that we've got and how of service we're going to be to another and helping them. Talk about a civilization and race of superhumans that are capable of achieving and manifesting and bringing into reality anything in all goodness, in all love, in all hope, in all spirit. How cool does that sound? Anything's possible. But in order to do that, we must unlearn what we have learned in order to discern, okay? So I'm going to cut it off there, people. I am grateful for being able to sit here and speak today so candidly and openly, sharing with you all about my other experiences that I've had and the actual energetic connections that I've had with spirit and source outside of my NDE that all co-correlate and interconnect with each other that have led me to where I am now. I'm grateful for you and your presence and being able to share in this experience with me and just watching my video. As I said, give me a thumbs up if you can. No problem if you can't. It just all helps. But in saying that, I'm going to sign out. I'm going to say goodbye. But this is Chris here with Starseeds and Patriots of Down Under, and I am grateful just to all of you being who you are and living in this moment and sharing in the love that we're all bringing forth to this new reality together, because there's no other time like now to be excited about living. So I say, get busy living. It's too late to get busy dying. There's no other way but up from here. So in saying that, love yous all and take care till next time. Chris signing out.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression.